Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge of the UES horizon, watching the strange vessel materialize from what appeared to be a tear in space itself. After 15 years of deep space exploration, humanity had finally encountered its first alien civilization, though not in the way anyone had expected. The vessel was massive, easily dwarfing the horizon's modest exploration class frame. Its hull seemed to ripple like liquid metal, bearing scars and damage that spoke of recent combat. Before Chen could order a standard first contact protocol, her communications officer's console lit up with an incoming transmission. "Captain, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. It's a distress signal." The alien message was a cascade of mathematical sequences that the ship's AI quickly decoded into basic universal concepts. Danger, pursuit, help. But what caught Chen's attention was the stream of astronomical data that followed. Coordinates, stellar movements, and what appeared to be a countdown. "Ma'am," her science officer, Dr. Patel, called out, his voice tense. "Those calculations, they're showing the collapse of multiple star systems. Whatever they're running from, it's consuming entire solar systems." The alien ship's liquid metal hull suddenly shifted, revealing what appeared to be weapon ports. Chen's tactical officer reached for the defensive controls, but she held up her hand. Years of studying xenopsychology had taught her to look deeper than surface appearances. "Those aren't weapon ports," she said quietly. "They're venting ports. Their drive system is failing." The alien vessel was bleeding energy into space, desperately trying to prevent a catastrophic overload. Chen made a decision that would alter the course of human history. "Engineering, prepare for emergency power transfer. We're going to stabilize their core." "Captain," her XO protested, "our protocols for first contact explicitly forbid sharing technology before establishing diplomatic relations." Chen's eyes remained fixed on the dying alien ship. Sometimes the best way to establish diplomatic relations is to prove you're worth talking to. Begin power transfer. What followed was 12 hours of intense cooperation between two species who couldn't speak each other's languages. The Horizon's engineers worked with their alien counterparts through a combination of mathematical equations, holographic demonstrations, and pure trial and error. They discovered that the aliens, who called themselves the Variks, communicated primarily through color patterns that rippled across their crystalline bodies. The Variks vessel's power core operated on principles that seemed to defy the laws of physics as humanity understood them. But when conventional solutions failed, it was a junior engineer's suggestion to treat the alien technology like a musical instrument, finding harmonic frequencies that would stabilize the power fluctuations that ultimately saved the ship. As the crisis passed, the Variks shared their story. They were refugees, fleeing from an entity they called the quantum darkness, a cosmic horror that didn't just destroy worlds, but rewrote the fundamental laws of physics in its wake. Their civilization, once spanning thousands of star systems, had been reduced to a handful of refugee ships. The Variks had sought help from dozens of advanced civilizations, but all had turned them away, believing their story too fantastic or the threat too great to face. They had come to human space as a last resort, expecting yet another rejection. Instead, they found Captain Chen and her crew, who looked at an impossible problem and saw not just a challenge, but a responsibility. As Chen studied the data the Variks shared about the quantum darkness, she realized humanity's greatest weakness might prove to be its greatest strength. Humans had so much less to unlearn about how the universe should work. "We'll help you," Chen told the Variks ambassador, watching the patterns of disbelief and hope ripple across its crystalline surface. "Not because we know we can succeed, but because we don't know for certain that we'll fail. Sometimes that's enough." The ambassador's surface flickered with a pattern that the translation matrix interpreted as both gratitude and warning. "Your species does not understand the full scope of what you offer. The quantum darkness has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours." Chen smiled. "That's exactly why we might be able to help. We're too young to know what's impossible. As the Horizon escorted the Varrock's vessel back to Earth, Chen knew she was bringing home more than just first contact. She was bringing humanity its greatest challenge and its greatest opportunity. The quantum darkness was coming, and Earth's survival would depend not on its technology, but on its ability to think beyond the boundaries of what more advanced civilizations considered possible. The real question was, would Earth's governments see the opportunity she saw, or would fear drive them to make the same mistakes as those other advanced civilizations? Shen looked at the strange, beautiful alien ship flying alongside her own and made a silent promise. She would make them understand that sometimes the most human thing to do was to attempt the impossible. Dr. Maya Rodriguez stood before the holographic display in the United Earth Science Council chamber, watching as the simulation of the quantum darkness consumed another star system. 6 months had passed since the Varrock's arrival, and humanity had transformed its scientific infrastructure into a war machine against physics itself. "Play it again," she commanded, her eyes fixed on the moment just before the laws of physics began to break down. The simulation showed reality itself seeming to unravel, like fabric being pulled apart thread by thread. But Maya had noticed something the advanced AI systems had missed, a pattern in the chaos. Dr. Rodriguez interrupted Varrock's chief scientist Ixel, its crystalline form pulsing with patterns of concern. "We have run this simulation 10,000 times. The outcome remains the same. The quantum darkness cannot be stopped through conventional means." Maya turned to face the alien scientist, noting how its surface rippled with what she had learned to recognize as frustration. "That's exactly my point, Ixel. We keep trying to fight this thing using conventional physics. But what if we're thinking about it all wrong?" She walked to the center of the room, where a three-dimensional map showed the quantum darkness's path of destruction across the galaxy. "Look at this pattern. It's not random. It's following rules, just not the rules we're used to." The human scientist pulled up data from an unexpected source: early 21st century quantum mechanics experiments. 200 years ago, humans discovered something that still baffles us: quantum entanglement. Particles that can affect each other instantaneously across any distance, seemingly breaking the speed of light barrier. Ixel's surface flickered with dismissal. "We mastered quantum mechanics millennia ago. It offers no solution to this threat." "But that's just it," Maya pressed. "You mastered it. You understood it so well that you stopped questioning it. Humans, we still don't fully understand how it works. We just know that it does. And that's why we might see something you don't." She pulled up another display, this one showing readings from the edge of human space where the quantum darkness was approaching. "Look at these patterns. They're identical to quantum decoherence on a massive scale. What if the darkness isn't destroying reality? What if it's forcing everything into quantum superposition?" The room erupted in discourse, the Varrock scientists' surfaces blazing with patterns of shock and disbelief. Maya pressed on, her voice rising with excitement. "We've been trying to stop it from destroying reality. But what if instead we embrace the quantum nature of what it's doing and use it against itself?" She brought up a new simulation, one that had taken Earth's most powerful quantum computers months to calculate. "If we can create a massive enough quantum entanglement field, we might be able to force the darkness into a fixed state, like observing a quantum particle forces it to choose a position." "Impossible," declared Ixel, its surface now showing patterns of both fascination and fear. "The energy requirements alone would exceed the output of 1,000 stars." "Under normal physics, yes," Maya agreed. "But we're not dealing with normal physics anymore. The darkness itself is changing the rules. So let's use its own rules against it." She revealed her final piece of evidence: data from human experiments with zero-point energy, considered failed and worthless by more advanced civilizations. What if we use the quantum fluctuations the darkness creates to power our defense? Like a cosmic judo throw, using its own energy against it. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. It was crazy, unprecedented, and flew in the face of everything the Varrocks knew about physics. But that was exactly why it might work. There's more, Maya continued, her voice softer now. We've detected something at the heart of the darkness. It's not just a phenomenon. It's a signal. Something or someone is controlling it. And if we can stabilize it long enough with our quantum field, we might be able to communicate with it. A senior Varrock scientist's surface flashed with the equivalent of a scoff. You propose to talk to the force destroying the galaxy. Maya met its skepticism with a steady gaze. Humanity's greatest achievements often started with someone trying to communicate with what everyone else was trying to destroy. We learned to tame fire, domesticate animals, harness nuclear power, all by trying to understand rather than simply resist. She looked around the chamber, at the faces of humans, and the crystalline forms of the Varrocks. We have 3 months before the darkness reaches the first human colony. 3 months to attempt something that's never been done before, using theories that shouldn't work, to save not just humanity, but every species in the galaxy. And if we fail? Ixal asked, its surface showing genuine curiosity. Maya smiled. Then we fail trying something new, instead of failing doing what we already know doesn't work. Sometimes that's the only difference that matters. As the chamber erupted in discussion and debate, Maya turned back to her simulations. The impossible problem had an impossible solution. Now they just had to figure out how to implement it before the darkness arrived. The real question was, could they build something big enough to affect the fabric of space-time itself, using technology that existed only in theory? She had a feeling humanity was about to find out just how impossible the impossible really was. The orbital shipyards above Mars buzzed with unprecedented activity as humanity raced against time. What had once been a facility for building exploration vessels had been transformed into the construction site for the most ambitious project in human history, the quantum web. Commander Jack Torres floated in his EVA suit, supervising the installation of another quantum resonator. The massive device, looking like a cross between a satellite dish and a forest of crystals, was one of thousands that would form a vast network in space. Resonator 2547 is online, reported his EVA team. Quantum coherence at 98.7% and holding. Jack watched as the device's crystals, grown using a hybrid of human and Varrock's technology, began to pulse with an otherworldly blue light. Each resonator was designed to generate a quantum entanglement field that would link with its neighbors, creating a web of quantum-locked space that could theoretically stabilize the approaching darkness. Theoretically being the operative word. His comm crackled with an incoming transmission. Commander Torres, we have a situation in Sector 7. It was Dr. Rodriguez, the brilliant physicist behind this whole plan. The quantum fields aren't sensing properly. We're seeing cascade failures across the entire sector. Jack engaged his suit's thrusters, moving toward the troubled sector. Talk to me, Maya. What are we looking at? The scientist's voice was tense. The resonators are fighting each other. Instead of forming a unified field, they're creating interference patterns. It's like they're trying to exist in different realities simultaneously. As Jack approached Sector 7, he could see the problem. The usually steady blue glow of the resonators was flickering erratically, creating a disorienting light show in space. More worryingly, he could see distortions in the space between them, tiny ripples in reality itself. All personnel, clear Sector 7, he ordered. Maintain safe distance until we can stabilize the field. But as the evacuation began, Jack noticed something strange. The distortions weren't random. They followed a pattern, almost like, Maya, he called. Are you seeing this? The interference pattern. It looks like a standing wave. There was a moment of silence. Then Maya's voice returned, excited. Of course. We've been trying to force all the resonators to sync to a single quantum state. But what if that's the wrong approach? What if we need to let them establish their own quantum harmony? Like a self-organizing system, Jack asked, remembering his academy physics. Exactly. Instead of trying to control the quantum fields, we need to let them find their own equilibrium. It's the same principle we used to save the Varric ship, treating it like music instead of mathematics. Jack watched as Maya remotely adjusted the resonator settings. Instead of trying to force them into synchronization, she allowed them to interact freely, only gently guiding their quantum states. Gradually, the chaotic flickering began to stabilize into a complex but harmonious pattern. "It's working," Maya breathed. "The fields are self-synchronizing." But what? "The pattern they're forming. It's exactly like the signal we detected at the heart of the quantum darkness. These aren't just random quantum states. They're trying to tell us something." Before Jack could respond, alarms blared across the construction site. A junior officer's voice came over the general channel. "Multiple contacts detected at the edge of the solar system. The quantum darkness has accelerated. New estimated arrival: 72 hours. Jack felt his blood run cold. The web was barely half complete. Even with the breakthrough in field synchronization, they needed at least a week to finish the network. "Maya," he said, keeping his voice steady, "please tell me you have a backup plan." There was a long pause before she responded. "Maybe, but you're not going to like it." She took a deep breath. "We need to let it get closer." Closer? The whole point of the web was to stop it before it reached us. "The web isn't just a barrier anymore," Maya explained. "It's a communication device. Those quantum patterns, they're like a language. But we need the darkness to be close enough for a strong signal. We need to let it approach Earth." Jack looked out at the vast construction project around him, representing humanity's greatest achievement and possibly its last hope. They had bet everything on this plan, and now they were being told to intentionally let the threat get closer. "How close?" he asked finally. "Lunar orbit," Maya replied. "We need to let it reach lunar orbit." Jack closed his eyes, thinking of the billions of people on Earth below, completely unaware of how drastically the plan had just changed. When he opened them again, he had made his decision. "All right, people, new mission parameters," he announced on the general channel. "We're no longer trying to create a barrier. We're building a bridge. Reconfigure all resonators for maximum signal strength. We've got 72 hours to teach ourselves to speak quantum." As his team scrambled to adjust to the new plan, Jack couldn't help but appreciate the irony. They had started this project trying to build the ultimate defense, only to discover they might need to do the exact opposite: open themselves up to the very force they were trying to stop. It was, he realized, a very human solution. When the conventional approach failed, changed the rules of the game entirely. Now they just had to hope they could learn the rules of this new game before time ran out. Earth hung like a blue jewel in the void, seemingly peaceful despite the impending arrival of humanity's greatest threat. The quantum darkness had reached Mars' orbit, its presence visible as a distortion in space that bent starlight around it like a cosmic lens. In the hastily constructed Quantum Command Center beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Maya Rodriguez watched as their sensors tracked the approaching anomaly. The facility buzzed with activity as human and Varric scientists worked side by side, monitoring the massive quantum web they'd built between Earth and the incoming threat. "Quantum coherence holding at 94%, reported a technician. "All resonators responding to pattern adjustments." Maya nodded, but her attention was fixed on a different display, one showing the increasingly complex quantum patterns they were detecting from the darkness. After 3 days of non-stop work, they had begun to understand fragments of what they were seeing. The patterns weren't random. They were organized like the neural firing patterns of a vast, cosmic brain. Captain Chen, who had been coordinating the space fleet's evacuation efforts, entered the command center. "The last civilian ships are beyond Saturn's orbit. We're as ready as we'll ever be." "Status of the quantum web?" Maya asked, not taking her eyes off the pattern analysis. "Commander Torres reports all resonators are functioning at peak efficiency." "But Maya..." Chen hesitated. "The Varrics are detecting structural instabilities in spacetime itself. They're saying we need to activate the web now, before the darkness gets any closer. Maya shook her head. Not yet. The patterns are still too weak. We need. Her words were cut off by a sudden alarm. The main display showed a massive surge in quantum activity as the darkness accelerated, covering the distance to lunar orbit in a matter of minutes rather than the hours they had expected. It's reacting to the web, someone shouted. The quantum fields are exciting it. Maya watched in horror as space itself began to warp and twist around their carefully constructed network of resonators. The darkness wasn't just approaching, it was reaching out, probing their defenses with tendrils of altered reality. Full power to all resonators, Chen ordered. Activate the containment fields. But Maya noticed something in the chaos, a pattern she recognized from her decades of research into quantum mechanics. Wait. Look at the interference patterns. They're not random destruction. They're following the Fibonacci sequence. She rushed to her console, fingers flying over the controls. The darkness isn't attacking the web. It's trying to match its frequency, like two quantum particles attempting to achieve entanglement. Match it? Chen asked incredulously. That thing has destroyed thousands of worlds. No, Maya breathed, understanding finally dawning. It didn't destroy them. It was trying to communicate with them. But their defensive responses created destructive interference patterns. They fought against the quantum fluctuations instead of working with them. She looked up at the massive display, showing the approaching darkness. Every civilization it encountered tried to resist the quantum state changes. But what if that's exactly what we need to embrace? Before anyone could stop her, Maya input a new command sequence into the quantum web control system. Instead of trying to stabilize spacetime, she programmed the resonators to amplify the quantum fluctuations, but in a controlled pattern, matching the Fibonacci sequence they detected. Maya, what are you doing? Chen demanded. Something impossibly human, she replied, her fingers never stopping. I'm saying hello. The effect was immediate and terrifying. The quantum web lit up like a constellation of newborn stars, each resonator pulsing in perfect harmony with the waves of distortion emanating from the darkness. Space itself seemed to sing with quantum possibilities. For a moment, everything hung in perfect balance. Then the darkness responded. The patterns it generated shifted, matching the frequency of their quantum web exactly. But instead of causing destruction, it created a stable field of quantum coherence stretching from lunar orbit to Earth. Within that field, reality existed in multiple states simultaneously, yet remained paradoxically stable. My God, Chen whispered. It's beautiful. Through the quantum field came a transmission, not in any language, but in pure mathematics and quantum states. As their computers began to decode it, Maya felt tears in her eyes. It's not a weapon or a natural phenomenon, she said, reading the incoming data. It's a probe, a quantum-based exploration vessel from somewhere beyond our understanding of spacetime. It's been trying to make first contact, but every civilization it encountered responded with fear and aggression. Until it met humans, Chen added, understanding dawning in her eyes, who were just crazy enough to try to talk to it instead of fight it. Maya nodded, watching as more data poured in. We didn't succeed because we were more advanced or better prepared. We succeeded because we were willing to embrace what we didn't understand instead of trying to control it. The quantum field stabilized further, creating a bridge between normal spacetime and whatever realm the probe inhabited. Through that bridge came knowledge, insights into physics that would revolutionize humanity's understanding of the universe. Well, Chen said with a slight smile, I guess this means we need to rewrite the first contact protocols. Maya laughed, the sound slightly hysterical with relief. I think we need to rewrite everything we think we know about the universe, again. Above them, the quantum web continued its dance with the entity they had feared, now transformed into humanity's first bridge to a reality far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. They had faced the impossible and succeeded not by conquering it, but by embracing it. A victory that was, perhaps, the most human achievement of all. 1 year after the event that became known as the quantum convergence, the Grand Hall of the United Earth Science Academy was packed with representatives from over 200 species. They had come to witness the inauguration of the first Inter-Reality Research Institute, a joint project between humanity, the Vargs, and the entity they now called the Quantum Explorer. Dr. Maya Rodriguez stood at the podium, looking out at the diverse gathering. Among the assembled delegates, she could see the crystalline forms of the Vargs, the holographic projections of energy-based life forms, and even the quantum fluctuation patterns that indicated the presence of the explorer's consciousness. "A year ago," she began, "we stood at what we thought was the brink of destruction. Instead, we found ourselves at the threshold of the greatest discovery in the history of all our species combined." She gestured to the massive quantum interface behind her, where patterns of light danced in complex, beautiful sequences, the new universal language that bridged the gap between traditional spacetime and the quantum realm. The quantum explorer came seeking understanding, but what it found was something far more valuable: perspective. Each civilization it encountered had advanced technology, profound knowledge, and sophisticated theories about the universe. But they all shared one critical limitation: they were convinced they knew how the universe should work. Maya smiled as she saw patterns of agreement rippling through the quantum field. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't our technology or our theories. It was our willingness to admit how much we didn't know. Our determination to try the impossible simply because we hadn't proven it was impossible yet. The holographic display shifted, showing the network of quantum bridges now spanning the galaxy. What had started as a desperate defense around Earth had evolved into an interstellar communication and transportation system, linking different realms of reality in ways that the most advanced civilizations had once deemed impossible. The explorer taught us that the universe is far stranger and more wonderful than any of us imagined. But we taught it something too: that sometimes the best way to understand something is to approach it with both the wisdom to recognize what you don't know and the courage to try anyway. In the audience, Captain Chen sat beside Commander Torres, both now wearing the insignia of the new quantum exploration fleet. Their ships were being refitted with hybrid technology that would allow them to navigate both normal space and the quantum realm, preparing for expeditions that would push the boundaries of known reality. "Today," Maya continued, "we're not just opening a research institute. We're opening a door to a future where the impossible is simply tomorrow's breakthrough waiting to happen, where different species, different civilizations, and different realities can come together not in fear or competition, but in shared curiosity and wonder." The quantum field pulsed with complex patterns as the explorer communicated. The translation appeared on screens throughout the hall. "Through humans, we learn that destruction born of fear and understanding born of courage create two very different universes. We choose to explore the universe created by courage." Maya nodded in acknowledgement. The quantum convergence taught us all that the greatest discoveries don't come from knowing all the answers, but from being willing to ask new questions. Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't advanced technology or profound wisdom. It was the simple, powerful reminder that sometimes the most logical choice is to defy logic itself. As she concluded her speech, the quantum field erupted in a dazzling display of synchronized patterns, the explorer's equivalent of applause. The gathered species joined in their own ways: light displays, crystalline chimes, and traditional clapping, all merging into a celebration of possibility itself. Later, at the reception, Maya found herself standing with a group of Varric scientists, watching as human children played with quantum field projections, instinctively understanding how to communicate with the explorer in ways that had baffled the greatest scientists of advanced civilizations. "They don't know it should be impossible," one of the Varrics observed, its surface showing patterns of amused wonder. "So they simply do it. That's humanity's real legacy," Maya replied. "Not the technology or the breakthroughs, but the reminder that progress often comes not from knowing the right answers, but from being willing to ask what everyone else thinks are the wrong questions. Above them, through the transparent dome of the academy, the quantum web shimmered in the night sky, a testament to what could be achieved when fear gave way to curiosity, when the impossible was seen not as a barrier but as an invitation, and when different species and realities came together in the shared adventure of discovery. It was, Maya reflected, watching the next generation already pushing the boundaries of what was possible, a very human way to save the galaxy, not by fighting the unknown, but by welcoming it with open arms and an open mind.